The Inca Empire was the largest in area and population Indian early-class state in South America from the end of the 12th to the end of the 16th century. It occupied the territory of modern Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, partly Chile, Argentina, and Colombia. It seemed that a lot has been written about the Inca Empire. But it turns out that there are still many questions about the history of the Incas. So, for example, what caused the death of the Inca Empire? Modern scientists believe that the main reasons for the death of the Inca Empire were the literal extermination of the local population by the conquistadors, the constant looting of Inca cities and deadly diseases brought by the first settlers from Europe to the New World, and banal famine in the cities from overcrowding. But this is far from true. All of the above, although it took place, was not the main reason for the disappearance of the Inca civilization. And here's why. Before the arrival of the first conquistadors, the local Indians were not distinguished by their unique longevity and health, as many historians present. Judging by numerous materials from the study of Inca burials, their mortality rate in the 15th century was much higher than the birth rate. They were dying out on their own anyway. The main reason for the high mortality rate in Indian cities was, as everywhere else, terrible unsanitary conditions, which contributed, in particular, to the infection of people with various parasites. Terrible epidemics mowed down entire peoples of the New World long before Columbus. By the time the first conquistadors appeared, up to 80% of the population of the Inca Empire had died from various diseases. So, all the claims that it was the Europeans who brought diseases to the New World and destroyed many civilizations are child's play. Apparently, it is convenient for someone to hide the true cause of the death of Indian civilizations and blame everything on mythical diseases. Yes, the punitive operations of the conquistadors in the New World also caused considerable damage to the population and cities of the Incas. But it is hard to believe that a handful of Spaniards could destroy the multi-million Inca Empire. Moreover, many historians generally claim that the conquistadors had nothing to do with the death of the Incas. So what destroyed the Inca Empire in the 16th century? We know from history that the sharp decline of the Inca Empire occurred in the late 30s of the 15th century. And by the middle of the 16th century, nothing was left of the great empire. Only destroyed cities, burned villages, and hundreds of thousands of dead local residents remained. For example, the famous city of Machu Picchu is an Inca city located in the Andes in Peru. Machu Picchu is famous for the fact that all the walls were built without the use of adhesive material. There are also unusual astronomical structures here. Panoramic views open up from the top. Scientists have not yet determined the exact purpose of this city. It is only known that the city was built at the end of the 15th century, and in the 30s of the 16th century, it was unexpectedly destroyed and abandoned by its inhabitants. Historians name the date of the desolation and destruction of the city, at least 1532, at most 1540. That is, the 30s of the 15th century. As you can see, the date fits into 1538, the year of mass destruction all over the world, which I have talked about on my channel more than once. Well, isn't that a strange coincidence? Let's move on. The city of Choqquequirao or the Golden Cradle is another lost ancient city of the Incas in the mountains of Peru, which is sometimes called the second Machu Picchu. In architecture and layout it is strikingly similar to Machu Picchu, and in literature it is called its sister. Choqquequirao is less studied and less visited by tourists. The lost city is located at an altitude of over 3,000 m and has been excavated to date, only 30 to 40%. The city was built in the same way as Machu Picchu, at the end of the 15th century. But it was destroyed and abandoned, filled with air, like the rest of Europe, in 1538. Again, a coincidence? I don't think. The city of Lactapata is literally the city of steps or the city of terraces. This city was also built at the end of the 15th century. Large areas of land were intended for agriculture, potatoes, corn and other crops were grown on them. This city was not touched by the conquistadors, but it was also unexpectedly destroyed and abandoned in 1538. Sacsayhuaman is a ceremonial temple complex and citadel in Cusco. The literal translation is well-fed falcon. Construction of the citadel began again at the end of the 15th century. Construction work continued for more than 50 years. According to Spanish chronicles, in 1536 the citadel in Cusco was safe and sound. For example, it is known that in 1536 the Inca ruler Manco Inca Yupanqui rebelled against the Spaniards and fortified himself in this fortress, but was soon driven out of it. But in 1538 the ceremonial temple complex and citadel in Cusco was destroyed and fell into disrepair. The Spaniards refused to restore it, and in the second half of the 16th century, they used the stones of the destroyed citadel to build new houses in the city. Why the famous temple complex and unique fortress fell into disrepair and turned into ruins, historians are silent. The city of Vilcabamba is the last refuge capital of the ruler of the Inca Empire Manco Inca Yupanqui after the invasion of the conquistadors. The secret capital began to be built in 1536. But in 1538 the capital was destroyed, the inhabitants disappeared, and the ruler fled in an unknown direction. The city was in ruins for almost 7 years, until 1545, when after the death of Manco Inca Yupanqui, the city was rebuilt by his son Seri Tupac. Why was the city abandoned and destroyed in 1538? Well, isn't it strange? And so on. The list can go on and on. Historians claim that Machu Picchu, Choqquequirao, and other Indian settlements were allegedly burned, destroyed or fell into disrepair in the 16th century, only because of the arrival of the terrible conquistadors in America. But this is, to put it mildly, not true. Numerous diaries and letters of the 16th century conquistadors have come down to us, which note that, until about the beginning of the 1530s, all the cities and villages of the Indians in Peru were intact. They were in full swing. Yes, the conquistadors captured and plundered many Indian settlements, often killing their inhabitants indiscriminately if they resisted and refused to obey. They did not spare anyone. Yes, all this happened. But they did not destroy or burn the Indian cities. On the contrary, they subjugated them and forced the local population to work in them, for the benefit of the Spanish crown. Many Spaniards of that time noted in their diaries that many Indian cities simply came under the control of governors from the Old World and flourished. For example, in 1531, the Spanish conquistador with the title of Adelantado, Captain Francisco Pizarro, landed on the coast of Peru. In his diary, he noted that moving deeper into the continent, the Spaniards discovered many intact and populated settlements and cities of the Indians. His document says that the Spaniards discovered stone fortresses high in the mountains, which were guarded by the Indians. On November 15, 1533, the conquistador Pizarro entered the capital of the Incas, the city of Cusco. He gave the city to his soldiers to plunder, but he ordered the city not to be touched. And now about the main thing. Spanish chronicles note that at the end of the 30s of the 15th century, communication with the New World suddenly disappeared. The Spanish crown urgently sends another expedition to the shores of America to find out what happened there. But when a new wave of conquerors came to America, already in the 40s of the 15th century, the conquistadors saw only abandoned, burned to the ground and destroyed Indian settlements, and even new Spanish cities. Forests are burned over vast territories. There are practically no people. It is not for nothing that in the legends of the Indians there are numerous memories of a certain catastrophe with a fiery rain and stones falling from the sky, a terrible earthquake and a flood that destroyed many people. And these global destructions and the destruction of Indian and Spanish cities and settlements occurred precisely in the first half of the 16th century, more precisely at the end of the 30s of the 16th century, when, according to my version, approximately in 1538, a global catastrophe occurred on Earth, destroying almost all palaces, castles, monasteries, temples and cathedrals in Europe, Africa, Asia and even in the Moscow state. Well, how do you like the plot? Is there something to think about? Write me your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like.